Okay, I changed my mind. Instead of sitting over here with the door facing us, we're gonna sit over here with the door facing this way. So as you can see, it's a decent footprint for a smaller machine. It's probably about in the 70-inch range. I won't tell you the exact numbers because I'm not going to tell you the machine yet. But it's a decent size. I might still push it this way to get some more room down the side of the machine, as well as push it back away from the wall to provide more room behind it, just so I can get all the way around and not need to, squeeze or not be able to access something. This is probably a good spot too, because I'm right by the breaker box. I can add another breaker, an outlet, and other wiring for the machine itself. So with this also being here, all of this needs to move probably back over to where it was when I first moved in. But this is, I guess a growth of, a shop. So you got to figure out where things go and rearrange as you move along. So this is where it's at. This is where it's going to go approximately. Let's go into the office now, and I'll go through the numbers and how I figured out what I got that's going right here, and I'll tell you what it is too. All right, give me a minute. All right, so I bought a machine. I finally did it. I've been in the market for a while trying to find a machine. I've been looking at hobby mills, prosumer mills, trying to think of maybe possibly doing a DIY, because I like doing the wiring, the drivers, and all the motors and everything. Getting like an old Bridgeport or something. I've also been looking at older used machines. So in an effort to try and help others who might be going through this, I decided to put together this little presentation, give you guys some insight on what I went through, what I thought about, and how I came to the conclusion in the machine that I got. And at the end of this, you'll figure out which one I got. So, the objective. So, obviously, it's to purchase a machine. This will probably most likely start off as a hobby, but it most likely, I wouldn't be surprised if it became a business. Throughout my search, I came to 3 different machine manufacturers that I was trying to compare between, because mostly it fit my budget and also the size and all the constraints that I had. So that's, of course, this is a pretty popular one, Tormach, the new 1100M, and then the MX, which is supposed to be coming out in the winter sometime. I've been comparing that with the Syil X7. This is a combo package. This is with the ATC and all that. And then as well, I've been looking at used machines. In this case, it was a Fadal VMC 15. That was a machine that was available here locally where I live, and something I went and I looked at and compared it with the 3 of these machines. So to try and figure out how to evaluate all this, I came up with some criteria to compare them all. Basically, performance, size, maintenance, and cost. And for each one of these, I wanted to pick the one that met the most number of criteria, as well as I have over here an extras list. Things that are more or less nice to haves right now. I don't need them, but they could be something that could sway me, one way or the other. I won't read through all of these, but basically, I don't, more important ones are ATC. It's not really important to me right now. Now, if this became a business, it would definitely behoove me to have an ATC. Rigid tapping, that's something that I could go either way on. I could use a compression tension head to do tapping if I don't have, say on a Tormach. But another one is maintenance. I want to be able to have something that I can work on myself and not need to call a tech to come out to my house to do it. So, before we get into the information, all the data, all the pictures I show in this came from either the manufacturer's websites or the dedicated Facebook groups for each manufacturer, which is where some people have files, documents, and other users have questions that they have answered. So with all that, make of it as you will. I'm not trying to rep any one company. I'm just showing you what I use to go through and figure out what and how to get a machine. All right, so starting off with the Tormach 1100M and the MX. This is probably the first machine I became aware of that fit my size and budget, or was close to it. I know there's a big online support for this. There's a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of forums. This is more or less a hobby, a high-end hobby mill, I'll say. The big things that got me, that I was looking at, was the spindle horsepower. This has got a 2 horsepower. The previous models, the PCNC 1100, that had, I think, a 1.5 horsepower. Max RPM is 7,500. One thing that I didn't know until I started really looking into this machine is that it had an R8 collet system. So instead of having a normal, say, BT30 or some kind of other tapered tool holder, it actually had this straight shank that goes up inside the mill head that it grabs. So that's something I've heard good and bad things about it. One good thing is that I know that it locates here on the Z, the shank face. This is also how you can set it manually if you don't have a tool setter inside the machine. Going down, they have their own controller. This is Path Pilot. It's basically Tormach's controller that's built on Linux CNC. They can support up to a 4th axis. The weight is 1,600 pounds. This is I guess a decent size for a smaller mill. Going down, they can have a jog pendant. Max table weight is 500 pounds. Max feed rates, this is something that got me a little concerned, if this was to be a business. 90 to 110 inches per minute. This is the rapids. So this may or may not be a big deal depending on how much work you're actually going to be doing. Power requirements, this is a nice thing that I noticed, was it did 220 single phase, so basically just you could have a dryer outlet on the wall and plug it in. You wouldn't need a 3-phase converter to get power. So moving on, axis type, box way. I know there's a lot of debate online between box way and the linear ways, the linear rails. So me personally, I don't have a preference either way. Something that's easier for me to maintenance would be ideal. I know larger machines that take heavy cuts have box ways. The one concern I have with that is just the adjustment of the gibs. Another concern would be the stepper motors. With this size machine, I don't know if it's really that big of a deal, because you can just get a large stepper and push through material, because you're not hogging out huge amounts of material on this machine. The servo is available for the MX whenever that comes out, but they said that there is an upgrade package for the M to go to the MX. Moving on, we have the ATC. This could come with the ATC if you choose so, and it comes with 12 tools. And then you can get within a package online, you can buy the starter kit for the tools, the vise, end mills, probe, all that could come with the machine. Estimated costs. This was something that, excuse me, that was something that I was concerned about. The $25,000 to get the full package for the 1100M. That's the premier package that has the ATC, that has the probe, everything. It's a little bit out of my price range. The max I really wanted to spend was about 20K. If I took off the ATC and the probe and some other stuff, I was able to get it in the mid. This says 19,000. It was about 18,600 something. Rounding up is pretty much 19. One good thing about this machine is they sell their own parts. Yes, it is from China, but it's easy to maintain and do it yourself as far as, maintenance or taking care of the machine, which is a big thing for me. All right, so after I looked at the Tormach, I went on to Syil. This is a little bit bigger of a machine. Where's the weight? I think weight is, oh, here we go. So it's all in metric because it's from China, so they sell it like that. There is some U.S. reps in a Facebook group that supports this, but this comes directly over from China. So compared to the 1,600 pounds of the Tormach, this is almost 3,000 pounds. So it's almost double the weight. One good thing was the max RPM was 10,000. It had an extra horsepower. There's a little bit, I think, a bigger travel on this machine compared to the Tormach. Accuracy, this is something that I got from the Facebook group. This is Mr. Shu. He's, I guess, the owner of the company. He posted this, and it said, I guess the biggest accuracy or repeatability error was 0.009 millimeters. This is something that it seems really accurate for this type of machine. So I don't know what the tests were, feed rates, if there's anything particular with you had to go slow to do that or that was going fast, whatever. But so I put that seems really accurate, but I'll let that be. Moving on, you can do rigid tapping on this machine versus the Tormach that has no encoder on it, so you need to use the tension and compression tapping head. Max feed rates, you're approaching 400 inches per minute. That's, of course, for rapids. Power requirements, on their website it says 220, whether it's single or three-phase. I think a lot of the guys that I've talked to on the Facebook group or online, they all run off of a three-phase converter. This is a linear rail machine, so that's something that's good. If I were to ever need to do maintenance, I could replace the linear rails. They have servo motors, so that helps with the rigid tapping as well as just more power. Comes with the ATC, that's pretty much standard, although you can configure this in certain ways if you want. Does come with tooling. This is a recent thing that one of the guys on the Facebook group posted, was that now they're going to be starting to come out with BT30 tooling. As a starter kit with the machine, you get I think it's like six tool holders. One thing I was excited about, I found Syil after I found Tormach, and I have experience with the Siemens 808, or really the Siemens control, and I know that with these machines, you can put a Siemens controller on there or ask them to do it, but it'll cost about 6K. Estimated cost for this, there's a deal for the month of December that Syil was putting on. For $26,000, you could get the full, this is an LNC controller, everything you see in this picture delivered to your door in the US for $26,000. Of course, that's above my $20,000 budget that I wanted. If I wanted to get below the 20, I'd have to take off the ATC and probably reconfigure this to be more of a manual machine, or maybe put Mach 3 on here. Not ideal, but that's something I would have to do to get down below 20. One major thing was right now there's a lot of trade issues going on between the U.S. and China. This is something that isn't really ideal. It also means that coming from China, it's going to be a couple of months before I actually get the machine. So once I order it, they're going to have to go build it, and then they're going to have to ship it across the ocean. That wasn't ideal for me. All right, so that's the Syil X7. Moving on, I had a local opportunity to look at a Fadal machine. It's a VMC 15. The one I looked at was a 2000. It was rebuilt in 2001. I think it's a mid-90s model. It comes with a Cat 40 spindle, 7,500 RPMs. Horsepower, this is something too, if I were to ever make this a business, this is one nice to have, was the horsepower is 15 horsepower if I run 3-phase, or about, I think, 9, possibly a little bit less than 9 if I switch it over to be single phase. Weight, out of the three, this weighs the most, 5,500 pounds. That's a good amount of weight. Rigidity is good. Accuracy, this is per their website, or per their actual manuals that are online, 2/10. That's plenty good for me for a home shop. Being a used machine, I wouldn't expect it to hold this. I probably would have to, whether it's replace ball screws, or I probably have to, figure out how accurate it actually is at the moment, and then either use backlash compensation or replace hardware to get it more in line with this. There is no jog pendant versus where on the Syil and the Tormach, they both can come with jog pendants. This one you can see here, this is just basically the control panel. You can use this to control the axes and speeds, but there's no handheld. I think you can get one, but this one doesn't have it, or the one that I looked at didn't have it. It is capable of rigid tapping, so that's good. Oh, this is a funny note. Max table weight, 1,500 pounds. So basically, on this machine, you could put a Tormach and it would be perfectly fine, assuming it could fit and do whatever machining you need it to. Max feed rates are 400 inch per minute. Power requirements, this is, again, per their website, 230 volt. You can go single phase or 3-phase. Linear rail, axes, so each of the X, Y, and Z, they have linear rails, so that should be fairly easy to maintain if I need to, or replace. It comes with servo motors on all of them, all axes, and then it has an ATC, and it has almost 10 more. It's got 21 tools that it could hold within the tool changer. Oh, jumped ahead a little bit. All right, going down to tooling. This machine actually came with tooling, or comes with tooling. The auction it had online, I went and actually saw the machine before I looked at it. It came with some tooling, so that helps with possibly getting this machine. Estimated cost, I've seen these go online for $10,000 to $14,000-ish. There are some caveats though. These are older machines, so you need to be aware that you might need to replace some cards or hardware or motors, something, just because of the age. And you don't know what the condition of this machine is and what it went through with its previous owner, whether they crashed it or had any issues. One good thing too is all the manuals are available online. So all the maintenance manuals, all the setup manuals, everything is available online. One thing though, with this machine, if I were to get this, I have to spend probably $2,000 to $3,000 for tooling to set it up, vise, end mills, indicators, whatever. And then if I wanted to run 3-phase, I would of course need a converter, so that would be an extra $2,600 for that. So maybe say five grand for extra for this machine. So that would probably put this in the $15,000 to $19,000 range. All right, so comparing all three, we'll go to this slide. I highlighted through all these columns, these are all the properties for each of the machines. The yellow is the best option out of the three. And then these orange ones that I highlighted are more nice to haves. So as you can see, I won't read through them all again, but basically the totals come out to be the Tormach has 2 of the best options, and then it has 3 nice to haves. Syil 2 and 7, and then Fadal 6 and 7. So with that, with the biggest factor also being price for me, I chose the Fadal VMC 15. This is just because really right here, this is the best price for what you get. With that comes with that concern with the older controller and components. I need to figure out if I need to replace anything. When I went and saw this machine, I've already bought it. I'm just waiting for it to be delivered. I actually measured each of the axes and saw that I probably most likely need to investigate the Z-axis more, because it had about 3 thou of whether it was play. I've heard, the thrust bearings may need to be replaced, but that's something I need to look into, because that's the only thing. The X and the Y were within, I think, half a thou, but the Z-axis lost, 3 thou going back and forth, up and down. So here is pictures of the actual machine. This VMC 15, I got it. It's up in the Atlanta area. Hopefully be delivered this week. I paid $12,500. That's the cost of this machine to get it to my house. So with that, I now need to buy tooling, so that the vise, I'm looking at either orange vise, or I'm looking at GMT or some other ones out there. Looking at end mills, looking at I could get a face mill for this guy down here. So I need to look into tooling. I also need to figure out some post-processor stuff. I know this with the older control. Some people are posting from Fusion 360 to get this to run. I need to figure that out. I also need to get some way to connect to the machine, because right now there's no way to connect. I think there is an RS-232 port on here, but I need to figure out how I can communicate that through some intermediate device to my computer. So delivery is next. After that, we're going to go through the setup. We're going to go through wiring, tooling, coolant. Here's the coolant tank right here. This will go behind it. As you saw in the very beginning, I need to make room for all of this. I might move it away from the wall in my shop. And then one of the biggest things I need to figure out is understanding this control. I've dealt with more up-to-date controllers, so that's, say Mitsubishi or Siemens, maybe even some FANUC-based controls I've used. I haven't used the Fadal control yet, but I know it's very similar to FANUC. So once we get it in, I'll be making videos of that, showing you guys that progress. If you haven't followed me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, because I post there a lot more than I do on YouTube. But when big stuff comes along, I'll be posting it to YouTube. So if you haven't already, subscribe. And that's pretty much it. So I'll see you guys in the next one, and have a good day. Bye.